Hello children, we finished electromagnetic induction and I'm sure you've gone through the concepts, you've understood it also. Now we're going to see an important topic actually called alternating current circuits, and there will be a lot of new concepts of learning especially because in case of DC we take current which is not changing with time. Now we are going to discuss a current which is going to change with time, right? So it's a new topic and go through this in detail. So let's start alternating current. Alternating current, in short we call it AC. Let's understand what exactly is alternating current first. Let's look at these two currents. This is current and this is time. There is a graph between current and time. One graph. Let's see another graph. This is current, this is time, right? This is case 1, this is case 2. When you look at these two cases, then you find that the first current from t is equal to 0 onwards, you can see the time is increasing, but the value of the current remains same. The current is not changing. You can see like this. It has a constant value. When you look at this current, then you find that time is increasing from here, from t is equal to 0 onwards. You can see the current is increasing from 0 to maximum. Again it becomes 0 in one direction. Let's call it positive. And again, you can see it's going from 0 to maximum in negative direction. Mark it minus. Again here it becomes what? 0. So the basic difference between these two currents is the first current is not changing with time, it is remaining constant, and this is the current we get from a battery or cell, this one. But this current is something special for us because we have not done it before. You can see that the magnitude and direction of this current is changing, going up to maximum. This obviously you have done class 11 waves, and this is called amplitude. You can see amplitude is remaining same. However, its instantaneous magnitude changes and also direction changes periodically. Periodically means after a fixed period of time, you can see after a fixed period of time it is becoming positive or negative. So this current is what we call is alternating current, right? In alternating current, amplitude must be constant, right? And the direction is changing periodically with time. Magnitude is also changing periodically with time. If I take here, for example, this value of current, that is I1, so you can see after a fixed value of time, the same values are being repeated, right? Similarly, I can take what? Minus I1 and I get it. So if the amplitude remains constant and magnitude and direction changes periodically, then the current is what? Alternating current. Obviously, this is what? Alternating current, because its magnitude and direction is changing with time, but the amplitude is always constant. Now let's look at this current. It is something like damped oscillations which I have done in class 11 in simple harmonic motion. What do you see here? In this case, you can see that magnitude and direction is changing with time. It is a function of time, but amplitude is not constant, it's constantly decreasing. Amplitude is constantly decreasing. So this obviously is not alternating current, because the condition for a current to be alternating current is that amplitude should be constant. Now let's look at this current. Now children, here we have taken two more graphs, current versus time. You can see that here the form is what? Triangular form, but amplitude of current is what? Same. So it represents what? AC. If the above triangle is positive, below is negative, positive and negative. When you look at this is a square form. Here also amplitude is same. Amplitude of current in each case is what? Same. Plus, minus, plus, minus. So these two also representing what? Alternating currents. This is a sine wave or sinusoidal current. This is a triangular wave. This is a square wave. They all are representing what? Alternating currents. But when I look at this current, this is not alternating current because its amplitude is constantly what? Decreasing. So we'll be defining what is alternating current. A current. So children, here we are defining a current having constant amplitude but changing periodically with time is called alternating current. So by now you understood how exactly an alternating current will appear in a graph when you plot a graph between current and time. Remember DC, this current is supplied by what? A battery or a cell. But an alternating current in any of these three forms or any other form, it could be a cosine wave also. This is, I will be writing the name, this is sine wave, a sine form. It is also called sinusoidal. It is also called sinusoidal. Sinusoidal means sine curve or sine wave. This is triangular form and this is a square wave. This triangular wave and this is a square wave. So you can have any of these forms, right? But generally in this chapter we are going to discuss this kind of current, that is sine wave. So how do we produce AC? Like I said, DC can be produced from a battery or a cell, but AC cannot be produced from a battery or a cell generally. So how we can produce AC, children? For AC, for production of AC, actually we need to use the concept of electromagnetic induction. If you take a coil and you rotate it in the magnetic field, then you can actually generate what? Alternating current. One thing you need to keep in mind, but alternating current is changing its magnitude and direction with time. So the electrons are oscillating in what? Both the directions simultaneously with a fixed time period, right? You start from here and go to the right and come back again. There is the positive lobe. Start from here, go along the negative direction. This is the amplitude again, come back to the mean position. We can consider like a pendulum. This is how the electrons are oscillating. So we will see how we can produce what? Alternating current, okay, by using an AC generator, okay. Production of AC, also called AC. Children, we are going to see how exactly we can produce an AC. Imagine a situation in which I have, these are poles of field magnet. This could be poles of a permanent magnet, horseshoe magnet or electromagnet. You can choose the way you want. If I set up these are poles of the field magnet, then clearly you can see the magnetic field will be directed from north pole to the south pole. Imagine a situation in which this palm is representing a coil. A coil has been placed here in a plane, or let us represent a normal coil. Imagine a situation in which I place a coil here between the poles of this magnet. Okay, this is how the magnetic field is going, like this, and this is how I am placing the coil, right? The plane of the coil is perpendicular to the plane containing the magnetic field lines, and this coil is mounted on a shaft. You can imagine this is how the magnetic field lines are going from my left to my right, right? And this is how I have mounted a coil, okay? And what I am going to do now, this coil is mounted on a shaft and I am going to rotate the coil. I am going to rotate the coil. Now let us understand like this. Suppose this is how the field lines have been placed. This is how the field lines have been placed, right? So you can see when the coil is like this, this is the area vector. The area vector is perpendicular to the what? Field lines. So flux of the coil will be how much? 0. Now what I'm going to do is, about this axis, the shaft on which this coil is wound, I'm going to rotate it. You can see this face is outside and the white face is where inside, and I'm turning it. If I'm rotating, then this angle will what? Angle will change, right? Here, this height was, so theta was 90. When it comes like this, theta becomes how much? 0. Flux becomes what? Maximum. And then if I rotate a little bit more by another 90 degree, so you can see again the field becomes 90 degree. This is the area vector and this is the field. So theta becomes how much? 90 degree. So as I started rotating from here and then 90 degree and I completed what? 180 degree, you can see the flux of the coil is what? Constantly changing. And when the flux will change, what will happen, children? You know that when the flux will change, that an EMF will be produced in the coil, right? Now let's find out the direction of this induced EMF. Remember, one complete cycle of the coil means rotating it by how many degrees? 360 degrees. Clear? So once again we will try to understand this diagram. This is the situation from which I am starting, but theta is how much here? 90 degree, flux is 0, right? Now this is the area vector pointing away from the board. Now I am rotating like this. So theta here become how much here? 0 now. So flux is what? Maximum through this. And again I rotate by further 90 degrees. So 90 means how much up? 180 degree. Again here, what will be the angle? Theta will be again 180, right? So we are constantly changing the angle, and as I am changing the angle, then the EMF is also being produced because of change of flux. And here we will try to determine what will be the direction of the induced current in this. Now imagine a situation when the coil is going inside. This is how the coil is, and suppose the coil is turning anti-clockwise, going like this. So it will rotate by how many degrees now? 90 degrees, right? So let's see what will be direction of the induced current when it is turning from this position to this position inwards. It is going what? Inside. If I use right hand rule, then see, this is the direction of motion of the coil, this is the field and this is the induced current. So let's use it. This is the field and the coil is going where? Inside. The coil is going where? Inside. You can see this is going inside and this is the magnetic field. So current will be like this. If you look at my finger, it's coming down. So this current will be what? Anti-clockwise. This current will be what? Anti-clockwise. So when the coil is going inside like this, then the direction of current is anti-clockwise. So once it has completed half the cycle, it will try to come outside. So in another situation, this is North Pole and this is South Pole. Again we have the same coil here and the coil is not coming out. This is the shaft. Earlier the coil was going inside, now the coil is coming out. When the coil is coming out, here, if I use right hand rule, this is the velocity, this is the field. This is how the current is coming. So this current is going to be what? Clockwise. For the first half cycle, current is, when it's coming out, coil is coming out, then the current is what? Clockwise. So during first half cycle, current is anti-clockwise, and then during remaining half cycle, what is happening? Current is clockwise. So this is what is special. If I consider this current to be positive during first half cycle, then this current will be what? Negative. So we can conclude here that as the coil is rotating between the poles of the magnet, then flux associated with the coil is changing. And when flux associated with the coil will change, what will happen? It will produce an EMF and therefore will be producing current. But the special thing is that when the coil is going into the poles, direction of current is in one direction. When it is coming out, direction of current has been reversed. right? Once again we can use the right hand rule to see the direction. This is the velocity. The coil is going where? The coil is going inside. Coil is going where? Inside. See here. When the coil is going inside, this is the field, then this is how the current anti-clockwise. When the coil will come outside, obviously the current is what? Current is clockwise. So this is anti-clockwise and this is clockwise. So you must remember this. First half cycle 0 to 180 degree. This is first half cycle. And this is 180 to 360 degree. This is second half cycle. So what do you conclude? When the coil will rotate in the magnetic field, then the flux associated with the coil will change. When the flux associated with the coil will change, it will produce an EMF. And that is the basic for production of AC. The interesting thing is that for the first half cycle, direction of current is clockwise. Then for the remaining half cycle, it is what? Anti-clockwise. So what you find? First electrons moving in one direction in the first half cycle, and then again they move in the opposite direction. So it's like oscillation of a pendulum. This current is not also not uniform, because you said, you found already, we did earlier the graph, I will be doing it again, that this is how the current is changing with time. Current is increasing from 0 to maximum and again becoming 0. This is like considering a pendulum from here. Consider electron to be the bob, it's going to the maximum amplitude here, maximum displacement, and coming back. So this is 0, this is 90 degree, or 1/4 of time period. Coming back means what? It's retracing the path, again it's coming back here. This is half the time period, or 180 degree, and this is the clockwise, anti-clockwise current. Remaining half cycle, this is 90 degree, this is how much? 180 degree. Remaining cycle it is going in the opposite direction. So this is 182, 180 plus 90 is 270, again maximum, and again retracing its path here, is coming at 360, and again it is 0. So electrons are basically jumping, they are oscillating for the first half cycle in one direction, coming back, second half cycle another direction and coming back, right? So how we can produce current? We can produce current by oscillating a coil, turning a coil between the poles of a magnet. Clear? Okay. So let's answer what will be the construction of an AC dynamo. Therefore, AC dynamo primarily it will consist of a coil which is placed between the poles of a magnet. This is north pole and this is south pole. The coil is mounted on a shaft. Remember, we need to rotate the coil. And rotation of the coil has to be done by using external device which is called a prime mover. Like if you are using water for rotating in hydroelectric plants, right? So prime mover will be water. If it is in thermal plant, then the steam will be the prime mover. If using a windmill, then wind will be the prime mover. So here you can put turbines. I mean, this is another discussion. Turbines. The turbines will be pushed by using what? External prime mover, and the shaft will rotate. As the shaft will rotate, then what will happen? The coil will also rotate. So the basic idea is to rotate the coil between the poles of the magnet. Okay. We have constructed this AC dynamo. You can see this is the coil, copper coil. I'll call this coil PQRS. This is a copper coil. And NSR, the north and south poles have field magnet. So this is field magnet. And then this R1, R2 are slip rings. And then B1 and B2 which are seeing a carbon brushes. So construction is very simple. Carbon brushes. When we generate current, then during first half cycle current is what? Anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise current will come out of this ring R2, and in the remaining half cycle current is clockwise, will come out of ring R1 and then B1. Very simple. When you rotate the coil, then produce what? EMF and therefore current. During first half cycle, suppose the current is coming in the clockwise direction, so it will come like this, it will come to ring R1. Now these rings are basically two metal rings, they are insulated from the shaft, and then the two ends of the copper coil are soldered, one is connected to R1, the other is connected to R2. You can clearly see when the current will be clockwise, it will come to R1. From R1, since carbon brush B1 is touching R1, it will come to B1, and from B1 will come to the load. Load means appliance where you are using it. If the current is anti-clockwise, you can see current will come like this, it will come to ring R2. Ring R2 is in contact with brush B2, brush B2, carbon brushes are touching like this, the two rings, and from here it will come to the external circuit, that is load where you want to use it. So this is the simple construction. So the parts are we have field magnet, which are poles of a Harshau magnet. It could be permanent, it could be electromagnet also, generally permanent. Then the shaft is the rod on which the coil is mounted, it's like a spindle. Then you have copper coil PQRS. Here you have shown only one turn, but there will be in fact what? Very large number of turns. Very large number of turns actually, children, that the coil will have. It will have very large number of turns, right? Then we have slip rings R1 and R2. These two slip rings are connected, they are fitted on the shaft, and at the same time they are insulated from the shaft for preventing eddy currents. And then there are two carbon brushes B1 and B2 which are in contact with the rings, and they act as commutator for conducting current to the external circuit. So how exactly does it work? Let's see working. When as the coil is rotating, then angle between the area vector and the magnetic field is changing. Clear? Let's see at a given instant the coil is like this. Coil is placed like this at a given instant. This is the magnetic field and this is the area vector. Angle between them is theta. Clear? Remember, this angle theta is a variable angle, right? So, if number of turns and the coil is n, then flux phi will be how much of children? Ba cos theta into n, right? Meaning phi will be equal to nba cos theta. And remember, the coil is rotating. If the coil is rotating, it must have a certain angular velocity, right? So as theta is changing, children, obviously what is happening? Phi is also changing. Now I will say, if angular velocity is omega, children, then theta is equal to how much? Omega into t. This is equation 1 and this is equation 2. Now when I use equations 1 and 2, then I can say that magnetic flux phi will be NBA cos omega t. Therefore, flux phi is equal to NBA cos omega t, and clearly you can see that theta or omega t will change as the coil will rotate. When the flux will change, then EMF will be induced. Therefore, induced EMF is E is equal to, children, how much? Minus d phi dt. If I differentiate, then NBA constant, they will be taken out, and then E will be equal to minus NBA derivative cos omega t with respect to t, and derivative cos omega t is how much? Minus sin omega t. So, it will be equal to minus NBA into minus omega sin omega t. If not from mathematics, just learn this result, the derivative cos omega t is minus omega sin omega t. So, if you multiply it here, then we get E equals to NAB omega sin omega t. Now, this is very interesting result. N is total number of turns, A is area, surface area of the coil, B is the magnetic field, and omega is the what? Angular velocity, right? So, you can see that NAB and omega, they are always constant, they have a fixed value, and children, this is called peak EMF. But this is equation 3, but E naught is equal to NAB omega. And this term E naught is the new term that I am using for you. E naught is called peak EMF. Peak EMF or maximum EMF. So children, if I use this only E naught sin omega t, then I can make equation 3 look more compact. I can write NAB omega as E naught. Therefore, EMF is equal to E naught sin omega t, and sin omega t, you know, basically is what? Theta. So E equals to E naught sin omega t. Clear? So we have been very well able to calculate how exactly the magnitude of current will EMF will change as E equals to E naught sin omega t, where E naught is what? Peak EMF or the maximum EMF. Okay. Now we'll try to see graphically, and we'll also try to see how exactly the current will change. Okay. Let's see here. EMF induced is E equals to E naught sin omega t. Now children, this is to be remembered by you, where E naught is peak EMF, right? And here once again E naught will be NAB omega. Omega is 2 pi nu, where nu is frequency, how many times the coil is, how many turns it is making in a second, is called frequency, denoted by omega. So frequency in India we generally use what? 50 hertz. But then different countries have got their different configurations, and whenever you deal with the problem, the value of frequency will be given. So if nu is equal to 50 hertz, then omega will be 100 pi. You can always put whatever value is given. If I put value this, put the value of omega here, then E naught will become 2 pi nu, that's omega NAB. So they can give you a numerical. From here, this result you can see. From this result you can see that we can increase the value of peak EMF by increasing number of turns, putting more turns. By increasing area, we can use a coil with bigger area, we can increase what? EMF. We can use stronger magnetic field, or we can increase the speed of rotation of the coil. Now children, when EMF is produced in the coil, then the coil will have a certain resistance, and therefore we can calculate what? Current also. Now if coil resistance is equal to R, then maximum current will be E naught by R, that is NAB omega. And let us keep it this much only. Therefore, I will be equal to E naught by R sin omega t. And E naught by R will be how much, children? E naught by R will be I naught. Maximum EMF divided by resistance will what? Maximum current. So here we have E naught by R is equal to I naught. And I naught is called peak current. So therefore instantaneous current can be written as I is equal to I naught sin omega t. Clear? We have to understand that E naught by R is what? Maximum or peak current. So we got beautiful resistance here. E equals to E naught sin omega t and I equals to I naught sin omega t. Right? Both the currents are, both the quantities are varying together because the phase is what? Omega t. Right? So we conclude here that whenever we will increase the speed, we will increase the number of turns, we increase the magnetic field, right, and increase the area. In all these 4 cases we can generate what? More EMF and therefore more current. Now we will see variation of EMF and current with theta. Variation of current and EMF with theta, I mean angle of rotation. Okay. Let's see here. E equals to E naught sin omega t, or omega t can be written here as theta. For one complete revolution, the angles will change between 0 to 90, 90 to 180, 180 to 270 and 270 to 360. Okay. Now we can easily, let me demonstrate to you using a notebook the example how angle is changing. Suppose this is how the magnetic field is pointing, right? From my right arm to my left arm. You can see this notebook is representing what? A coil. This is the coil. Now the coil starts rotating, suppose like this, in the anti-clockwise sense. This is the area vector. You can see area vector is pointing away from me, away from this board, right? This is the magnetic field. Right? So here you can see theta is how much of 90 degrees, so flux is how much of 0. Only through here, not through the area. Now I am rotating by 90 degree. So this is how I am rotating anti-clockwise, 90 degree. Now you can see the flux is maximum because here theta has become how much here? 0. Theta is how much? 90. Theta here is what? 0. Theta here is 0. Now again I am rotating here. How much is theta out here now? This is the area vector. And this is the magnetic field. So you can see that we are going from 90 to 180, 270. Remember, for the first half cycle, flux is maximum through this. Now the flux is maximum through this. And how much is this? This is again 0. So this is what you need to remember. The coil is changing its direction from 0 to 360. 0, 90, 180, 270, 360. Remember, we started with this phase up. Again see, 0, 90, 180, 270, 360. This is what is happening. Acha, now you are at 0 and rotate by 90. So it's 1/4 of time period. Rotate by 180, half the time period. 270, 3/4 of time period, and 360 full time period. So we can have angles where you can understand it. We are going to see variation of EMF and current with time, so this knowledge will be helpful. I want to plot E against theta. I can also plot E against time. Okay. So E equals to E naught sin omega t and I equals to how much? I naught sin omega t or sin of theta. Clear? So I will be writing here the values of theta, the values of E and the values of I. Children, when theta is 0, sin 0 is 0, so EMF will be 0, current will also be 0. When theta is 90 degree, sin 90 is how much? 1. So E is E naught and I is how much? I naught. So this is E naught and this is I naught. When theta is 180, sin 180 is 0, so E is 0 and I is also 0. We have already completed 0 to 180 means half the revolution. Now for the remaining half cycle, again increase by 90, so 270 degrees. Sin 270 is how much? Minus 1. So minus E naught, minus I naught. 360 if you plot, sin 360 is 0. So 0, this is also 0. Many times they will not give a degree, they can give me radian also. If they give me radian, then 0 is 0, 90 is pi by 2, pi, this is 3 pi by 2 and this is 2 pi. But if you're not from mathematics, you're not a mathematics student, you can use 0, 90, 180 and from here to here we complete one cycle. Clear? Now time period, for each 90 degree rotation 1/4 of the time period. So here time is how much? We want to plot time, suppose time, theta 0 then time is 0, 90 then 1/4 of time, 180 then half the time period, 217 3/4 of the time period and 360 means, right. So you can use these measures for plotting the graph. We can easily demonstrate these values on a graph, and if you understand this graph is important for your exam also. They ask you to plot this graph. This is E and this is suppose theta. You can see the values are changing between plus E naught and minus E naught. So This is 90 degree, 180 degree, 270 degree and 360 degree. So you are plotting only one cycle and then again it will continue. Theta is 0, then E is how much here? 0. 90 then it is maxima. 180 then 0. 270 then minus 1 and 360 then 0. So this is plus E naught and this is minus E naught. If you plot this, how the graph will come down? This is how the graph will come. One complete cycle. This is a curve actually. This is 180 degree. And again this graph will go on like this. I will continue. Clear? You want to plot against time, children? Then this time is t by 4. This time is t by 2. This time is 3t by 4 and this time is t. So you can plot it accordingly. If you want to plot current, then current will have a similar graph but will have what? Smaller amplitude. If you want to plot current, it will have smaller amplitude. I can plot on the same graph. This is plus I naught and this is minus I naught. And let me plot it separately, I think it will be better. Let's plot it separately. This is plus I naught and this is minus I naught. This is how the graph will come. Right? This is current I and this is time t. You remember this amplitude of this is smaller than amplitude of this. Clear? This is 90 degree. This is 180 degree. This is against theta. 270 degree and this is 360 degree. You can also plot against time. This is t by 4, t by 2, 180 degree here. This is 3t by 4 and this is t. So you can see that amplitude of EMF will be more than amplitude of current. Clear? So when so that whenever we will rotate a coil in a magnetic field, it will generate alternating EMF and therefore alternating current also. Okay? Alright. Now children, so we by now understand that when we rotate a coil, then alternating current is produced and this current varies with time, its amplitude is constant. Now we will understand what is its root mean square value. Now this current, unlike the current produced by what? DC, changes with time. DC does not change with time but AC changes with time. Now it has many similar properties to DC, including one important property, that is heating effect, the thermal property. When you send DC through a circuit, it will produce heat. When you send AC through a circuit, then also it will be producing heat. Clear? Now there is a term that we call effective current or root mean square current. Root mean square current. What is root mean square current? We denote it by IRMS. IRMS. Children, as the name is implying, root mean square current is actually mean value of AC. Right? Let's understand this. This is AC. This is current and this is time. Right? And from here to here it is one complete cycle. Again the next cycle will commence like this and this is how it is going to go on. Clear? Now you see, suppose I want to calculate n values of this current. Suppose I take this value as I1, I take this value as I2, I take this value as I3, I take this value as I4, I5, I6, I7, I go on taking, and the last value I take is what? IN. This last value I took is what? In, suppose. And the first value is I1. Now if I square all these currents, I have taken n values are I1, I2, I3 up to In. Suppose I take n values and I square them, and divide by n. So this becomes mean of all the squares, and then I take a square root, then this current is called IRMS or RMS current. Clear? So RMS current is nothing but what? Square root of the mean of square of all the currents. If the n currents, suppose 10 currents are there, then I1 square, I2 square to I10 square divided by 10. If there are 3 currents, then I1 square plus I2 square plus I3 square, depending on how many currents given to you, right? Now, this definition is beautifully related in physics. Like I said in the beginning, if you have any circuit, if you have any resistance, suppose there is a resistance here, R, and through this resistance, I am sending DC. Right? And suppose through the same circuit now, I am sending AC. And remember, this is symbol of AC input, like this. A battery will be DC and this symbol will be for AC, the sine curve here. Clear? This is AC input. Now see, if I send this AC, it will produce a current through the resistance, and if I send DC, then also it will be producing a current. So mathematically, using this property, how will you define RMS current? See children, RMS current is mean current whose value does not change. Suppose this is AC, suppose this is the alternating current which is given to you. Now a certain value of this AC we can assume is to be taken as constant, this value. This is the mean value which I am talking about. This will appear to be like a DC, it not appear to change the mean value, right? So we are going to discuss what is RMS current in terms of the similarity between DC and AC in terms of the heating effects. But you have to keep in mind that when I am saying this mean current, that is RMS current, then I am generalizing this statement by saying that this RMS current is like DC. It is not changing. Clear? So how we define? Let's understand it. So children, here I define RMS value of AC is equal to that steady value. So when I am saying this steady value is actually what value? RMS value. And this steady value will appear like a DC, like I have indicated here. If this is I naught, then this will be steady value I RMS. I means current, RMS means root means square current. And remember, this I RMS is also written as I effective. So bear in mind that I RMS we are writing as I effective. So we are saying that RMS value of AC is equal to that steady, it become like DC, behave like DC. Value of AC which dissipates same amount of heat per cycle as dissipated by AC per cycle. Clear? So I will be using this definition now, and I try to calculate what will be the relation between root mean square current and AC. Remember, root mean square current is a steady current. So I will say here heat dissipated per cycle by RMS current. Children, will be equal to how much? H1 is equal to I RMS square R into T. Because this current is uniform, so I don't have to integrate, I can just say I square RT. I RMS is a uniform current, is not changing, so I don't have to integrate it. Okay. Now I will be calculating heat dissipated by AC per cycle. Okay. How much heat is dissipated? Heat dissipated per cycle by RMS current I already wrote it. H1 is equal to IR1 whole square R into T. Now children, we will calculate how much is heat dissipated by AC per cycle, and per cycle means what time? T. So heat dissipated per cycle by AC, that will be H2 is equal to, we will have to integrate, we will have to add up all this because this current is changing what? All the time. So I need to find out heat here, heat here, heat here, current is changing all the time. So I will have to integrate it. So I square R dt 0 to T. And children, we know I is equal to how much? I 0 sine omega t. Okay. So let's put this value. H2 will be I naught sine omega t whole square R dt 0 to T. So H2 becomes I naught square R integration of sine square omega t dt 0 to T. Clear? Now for integrating sine square omega t, children, there are two ways. One, you can remember the standard value, or you can remember here sine square omega t is equal to 1 minus cos 2 omega t divided by 2. Right? We will put this value and then we will integrate. So H2 will become I naught square R integration of 1 minus cos 2 omega t divided by 2 dt 0 to T. Clear? Now 2 comes out, H2 becomes I naught square R by 2, and then integration of 1 is what? T minus sine 2 omega t by 2 omega 0 to T. Yes? If not mathematics, you can remember integration of cos 2 omega t will be sine 2 omega t divided by 2 omega, right? So this is for your reference. Now putting t is equal to T. So how much do you get? H2 equals to I naught square R by 2 T minus 1 by 2 omega sine 2 omega t, and you put 0, then everything is what? 0. 0, sine 0 is also 0. Now sine 2 omega t, we need to work on this value. Sine 2 omega t will be, children, capital T is sine 2 omega is 2 pi by time period into T. Of rotation dynamics cancel out, sine 4 pi. So you can remember, children, that sine 2 omega t is equal to sine 4 pi, and sine 4 pi is how much? 0. So this part is also 0. So this part also has become 0. So H2 will become I naught square R T by 2. So we came across a very interesting result, children. This is heat generated by what? Steady current, which is RMS current, and this is heat generated by what? AC. Now equation 1 and equation 2 will be what? Equal by definition. So I will say here, by definition H1 is equal to H2. If H1 is equal to H2, children, let us put it. Then we have IRMS whole square RT is equal to I naught square RT by 2. Cancel out RT. And what do you get here? IRMS square is equal to I naught square by 2. Very interesting result, children. IRMS whole square is equal to I naught square by 2. If you take square root of both sides, then we get IRMS is equal to I naught by root 2. Beautiful result. And 1 by root 2 is 0.707. So you can also say like this, IRMS is equal to 0.707 I naught. So we came across a very interesting result here, that IRMS is I naught by root 2, or 0.707 times I0. Means whenever we use AC, about 70% of that AC, or 71% you can see, 70.7% of that AC acts like a uniform current. Meaning, if this is your alternating current, so nearly this current 0.70 I0. This current will act as steady current or uniform current. Okay. So children, we got IRMS is equal to I naught by root 2. This relation we got, or 0.707 I naught. Clear? Now IRMS can be written as what? ERMS by R, because I is equal to E by R, and I naught is E naught by R into root 2. If we cancel out this, so we come across another interesting result here, that ERMS is E naught by root 2, or ERMS is equal to 0.707 E naught. That means children, if your peak current I naught is 10 amperes, peak current is 10 amperes, then RMS current is what? 7.07 ampere. And if your peak voltage is suppose 100 volts, then RMS voltage is what? 70.7. Means I am not going to be able to use what? 100 volts steady. I will be using how many volts? Nearly 70%. That is 70.7 volts steady voltage I will be able to use. If I show you graphically, see here, then this is E naught. This is E naught, but I am going to use what? This as steady voltage, or this as steady voltage. And how much is this? E naught by root 2. This is E naught by root 2, or this is E naught by root 2. This much, which is nearly 70%, right? Similarly, suppose I show with the current. Suppose this is current, this is I naught, so I am using what? This value. This is I naught by root 2, right? So these steady values are important to understand. These are values of AC which act like what? DC for a circuit, and this is what we use at a steady rate. Clear? So now this is done. In the next video we are going to discuss Phases diagram and different types of AC circuits. Okay children, thank you.